Well, as you're going to hear, we have a record clearance in over 2 years in the auction market nationally. Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic back with me in just a moment with all the details.
Point your clients in the right direction with our range of directional signage. With a variety of options, we have a pointer board for every situation. Made with quality, durable materials, they're built to withstand our varying weather.
And once again, we welcome you to the show, Kevin Brogan from CoreLogic, with his expert overview at the end of the week as to what we saw. Kevin, how are you, my friend? I can see you're in a motel room there. Whereabouts are you?
I'm in Melbourne this week, Kevin.
I've got to ask you, those letters behind you, what do they mean? Did you go crazy during the night and reposition them or something?
No, I'm not quite sure what message they're spelling out. Maybe I'll ask when I check out.
Yeah, just move sideways so we can see them. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, not quite sure. It looks like it might be some sort of chemical formula, or do you think it's something that might actually help you sleep better? What do you reckon?
I don't know. I'm hoping it's the chemical formula for breakfast.
Oh, okay. You're a bit hungry. All right. Okay. All right, mate. Let's crack straight on with the show. Let's firstly bring up our final results. Wow, 73% the weighted average. But look at Sydney and Melbourne, neck and neck.
Yeah, absolutely. So we did see in the preliminary results, Sydney was a little way ahead, but as always happens when we get the results in, we see a little bit of a revision. But yes, absolutely, a dead heat. If the decider is the number of auctions, I'm afraid Melbourne
comes ahead.
That one just edges ahead.
Yeah, they do. Overall auction numbers, 1,200. They're still down a bit. I think from memory we were cracking almost 2,000 this time last year.
Yes, that's right, Kevin. It was over 1,900 this time last year. So once again, the story is of the seasonal impact on the auction numbers. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're all looking to what's coming in terms of a spring increase in activity.
Well, we'll get to auction numbers next week, and we should be starting to see them climb. But we'll tell you more about that in just a moment. Firstly, let's take you to the Sydney sub-region results. We know that Sydney and Melbourne both had good results. City and Inner North once again. Look at that, 91%.
Yep, absolutely, and City and Inner South also at 91%. I mean, you may recall the preliminary result there was 100%, but the revision's only slightly down. I think we had 42 results, and now we have 47. But still, 90% plus is an exceptional result.
Yeah, you'd have to assume that last one is probably going to be a negative, but even then, that's still it'd be over 90%. And
yeah, absolutely.
Northern Beaches 81%. Some of the the high performing areas like eastern suburbs, 56 auctions and 81.6% clearance.
Absolutely. I mean, we've mentioned it before. The eastern suburbs is one of those areas which is pretty reliable in terms of its auction performance, and was sort of sitting towards the top of the league table of Sydney sub-regions all through the time when market conditions were softer. But those North Sydney and Hornsby and the Northern Beaches, I mean, they are reliably producing really strong results with generally speaking, sort of upper end housing stock.
We'll bring up the Melbourne sub-regions now. Once again, we see a fairly even picture, don't we? We might see some higher and lower results in Sydney, but Melbourne generally tracks fairly normally within a range of 70 to 80%.
Yeah, look, we've certainly seen much more consistency across the sub-regions, but as we've mentioned before, the Outer East at 87.1%, definitely leading the pack. Inner East at 80.7%. They're the two regions that have cracked the magic 80 mark. But really, every region is over 70%, which again just speaks to the confidence returning to the market.
Indeed, we are going to bring up the rolling average for you in just a moment. And we've got an interesting comparison, a great story to tell you there, so stick around for that. But before we do, here's James Bell with his auction tip for the week.
Hi, I'm James Bell from the Auction Group. The buyer has a job, the agent has a job, and the vendor's job is to listen to feedback and decide on their level of release. Buyers need to understand that their job is to compete and get to their level of comfort, not to form a rigid view about what the vendor should do. Agents can also take on the vendor's responsibility. They need to be impartial and be able to clinically analyse behaviour and price feedback. This will ensure a successful auction day. You see, everyone has rights and responsibilities, and if they stick in their lanes, the result is there. I'm James Bell for PropertyTV.io.
Thanks for that, James. Let's, as I promised, you know that I love this worm. I call it the worm. I don't know if that's been officially named that yet, but anyway, let's not get hung up on that. Have a look at this graph that shows exactly where the rolling average is going back to 2009. We're almost at a peak.
Look, we're certainly heading in that direction. As you mentioned earlier, you know, the last time we saw a weighted capital city average of over 70% was May 2017. But as you can see from the graph, we've sort of clipped over that 70% level in 2016, and then before that, sort of end of 2014. That fall from 2014, that was broadly associated with the lending restrictions specifically aimed at investors, and then also the interest-only restrictions. And then prior to that, as you can see, we've sort of clipped the 70% line, but we haven't actually gone much over it.
No. It'd be interesting to see what unfolds between now and the end of the year. There's a possibility we'll probably see that rolling average get right up towards almost a peak anyway. Very close to it.
Yeah, look, yeah. It's certainly possible. I mean, what we're looking for, and what most people are asking is, if we do see a surge of listings coming to the market in spring, will that exert a downward pressure on the clearance rates?
Yeah.
And I guess the only way we're going to know that is to see whether there's that sort of latent demand, people who've got themselves ready to buy at auction, but are just biding their time perhaps until some more stock comes onto the market.
Yeah, well, of course, you and I can, pontificate over that forever, can't we? But the proof's going to be in the pudding, or in the eating. But just keeping that graph on the screen for a moment, looking at that dip going back 2010, 11, 12, and even up into 13, that was quite a long period of time, wasn't it?
Oh, look, absolutely. I mean, through that period, you can see that the market was sort of up at that sort of higher level. I mean, yes. when you look at the dip that occurred in sort of 2018, that was a really quite significant fall. We hadn't seen the like of that for sort of 7 years or so.
Yeah, it was rather rapid, wasn't it? I mean, it went down, right down, but it was fairly rapid over a short period of time, relatively speaking.
Oh, absolutely. And I think, the auction clearance rates are only one metric to measure the market. But over the longer term, the auction clearance rates do correlate reasonably strongly with what's happening actually with house prices as well.
Yes. Okay, well, let's bring up our auction numbers for this week, and we can see Sydney 468, Melbourne leading the pack there with 631. I've got to say those numbers are probably a little bit more disappointing once again if we compare that to this time last year, Kevin.
Yeah, look, I think what we've seen over the last couple of weeks, I mean, the week we've just reported on was 100 more auctions than the previous week. And again, looking to next week, in aggregate across the capital cities, we've gone up from 1,200 to 1,300 auctions. So we're seeing an increase in the number of auctions, but it's a very gradual increase at the moment. So still hanging out for a spring surge.
Yeah, we are waiting for that, aren't we? And you've already touched on that. And if it does come, it's probably going to be fairly massive, but almost, I was going to say tidal wave, but it is going to be quite huge if, in fact, there is a build-up of stock.
Oh, look, absolutely. I think we're seeing in, particularly in Sydney and Melbourne, we've seen the lack of new listing activity actually now reflected in the total of the total number of residential properties on the market.
Yeah.
So look, we did see, I think, looking back to the worm. There you go. I've said it.
Good. I'm pleased.
The last recovery from that 2011 sort of dip in clearance rates. It did take just a little bit of time to gather momentum, but we're reporting really strong results in terms of clearance rates. And if you were looking to put your property to auction, the data is showing every sign of encouragement if you were going to make that decision in the spring season.
Kevin Brogan, thank you so much for your time, my friend. And if anyone knows what those numbers and letters mean behind Kevin, let us know. I'd love to get your email and we'll let you know next week. Kevin Brogan, my friend, have a wonderful weekend and look forward to talking to you again on Monday. Thank you. And remember, watch out for Real Estate Talk. It's out a little bit later today and also, tomorrow. And a little bit later today, we'll have property news update for you as well. All of these shows, of course, appear whenever you want them on demand at propertytv.io. I'll be back again on Monday. See you then.